Welcome, everybody, to another installment of the Ride or Dynasty podcast. I'm your host, the social media Sasquatch, Don Detweiler again, and with me, as per the usual, we got Brandon.
What's up, everybody?
And Kit.
What up? Happy to be here.
So today, the big deal is mega overreactions to the shenanigans that will be week 2. And what's going to be real and what isn't going into week 3. So we'll see just some general trends and stuff we'll go over and catch up with some of the guys and how they've done and look at some of the anomalies, or maybe it's just how things are now. But first, we'll hit the news. OBJ continues to miss games after an opportunistic and pretty good-looking training camp. When do we think we're going to see him back? Brandon, what do you think?
I think Sunday. He was, I don't know, I'm not sure if you've been keeping up with the news today, but he was a full participant at practice for the first time pretty much. So I think he's back Sunday, and it couldn't come at a better time with Landry getting hurt last week.
Yeah, Landry going out is a tremendous blow to their passing offense. In the event that OBJ doesn't come back just quite this week or isn't effective immediately, is it time for the Peoples, or will the Swartz be with you?
So I would say that if he does miss this week, despite all the positive sort of things that Brendan alluded to, practicing in full and expect him out there, all that stuff from the coach, that would be bad and be an indication that there's some sort of ongoing issue with his knee. And if he doesn't look like himself, that would be bad, right? I mean, if he hasn't really looked like peak ODB in a little bit, but he needs to flash, I think, for him to not kind of be in a situation where people are like, oh God, it's all the negative things we've already thought about for his dynasty value and his season-long value.
Yeah, I mean, long-term, I got no interest in him. I just can't trust him to either get right or really that offense fit for him. But in general, I think Swartz is probably a guy that you want to try and grab if you have the opportunity to get. You could probably get him cheap. He was targeted a little bit, but the guy's got Olympic-type speed and will take the top off of a defense for sure. Next up, the Texans switching to Mills at quarterback after Tyrod got hurt last week. First of all, last time he was out, he went 8 for 18 with a TD and an INT. So that's great with no real prep work. We'll see what he can do coming around. Kit, what's your feeling on Mills? Is there any value there?
No, I don't know. He had a quote like, I wasn't overwhelmed, which I think that does protest too much, right? He seemed pretty overwhelmed. He wasn't a good college quarterback. I know he was a high recruit, but he wasn't good, again, at the college level, which is why he fell in drafts. It was actually even a little surprising he got drafted where he did. So I'm concerned. I mean, if you play in a league with defenses, I'm scooping up the defenses playing the Texans for the next 3 weeks at least. I don't think it's going to be nice. And I think the Panthers happen to have a surprisingly good defense. So this will be a particularly rough week.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a mega survivor strategy this year for survivor pools is going to be follow the Jags and or Texans. And go with that. So friend of the show chimes in, Levine_Z says, since you started with these two teams, who do you have higher, OBJ or Brandon Cooks? Brandon, what do you think?
It's OBJ for me. I think even with the injury, if he's ready to go, he's still more talented than Brandon Cooks. Maybe that's disrespectful to Cooks, but I just think that speaks to OBJ's talent level deep down. And secondly, it's the quarterback situation. Like Kit was saying, I have no faith in Davis Mills. Baker, for as many limitations as he has, he can still put up some yards and throw a couple touchdowns in that scheme. So yeah, it's OBJ for sure.
What do you think, Kit?
I just spent all that time shitting on Davis Mills. I still expect Tyrod to be back in the back half, and I just think Cooks is annually underrated. He's good. He had the 1 year where he had a concussion and other injury issues, and he wasn't good then. But otherwise, he just shifts from system to system, team to team, and goes over 1,000 yards. I think I would admit that OBJ has more upside, but Cooks is my guy there, like far and away, and definitely on a dynasty perspective, because regardless of what the next couple of weeks portend, I think Cooks appears to be on a path to continue to be good, whereas OBJ, it's very up in the air.
Yeah, for me this week, next week, and going forward for the foreseeable, it's got to be Cooks, especially with Nico Collins going out. There is literally no one else to catch the ball. So he is going to be totally covered up in targets. And the Browns don't have to really throw the ball that much. If they don't want to, with that dominant offensive line and those two monster running backs, they're set up so there may only be 5 to 6 targets on a good week for OBJ. So realistically, I think it's got to be Cooks because the Texans are going to be trailing a lot, and he's the dude who's going to get the targets. So just one guy talking, but I would stay with Cooks of the two. So that gets us to interesting times in Chicago because Fields wasn't really meant to hit the field just yet, but here we are. Dalton got smoked and will be out at least this week, probably longer with a knee. They're saying it's not tore up, but it's still beat up. Once Fields goes in, though, is there a road back to Dalton? What do you think, Kit?
I'm gonna actually our live listener there, who is my friend, has alluded to this, but no, I don't think Dalton comes back. If Fields is what I think he is, which is a very good, quarterback who will help his team win in multiple ways, even as a rookie, right? Both with his arm and his legs. Then I don't see a means for Dalton to come back in. If he really struggled, it would be a very bad sign for his career if he really struggled enough that in 3 weeks they were like, yeah, Dalton's going to come back. I mean, if he can lead a win, even a single win, or put up one very fun, exciting game, I think it's Fields from here on out, which is great for Fields owners because I do think he's going to have a reasonably high floor. But yeah, that's where I'm at on that.
Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree. Fields is so talented to me. I'm super, super high on him. And I think he is going to play pretty well. The Browns are a decently tough matchup for his first start, but I think he'll be just fine. He's for sure going to have some bumps in the road. But yeah, if Andy Dalton starts another game, then Matt Nagy shouldn't be allowed back on the plane.
Yeah, 2 bumps in the road named Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett. Welcome to the NFL, young man. Hope you
good,
get to hang out.
Clowney has, 3 or 4 good, pass rushes a game. Maybe, he takes snaps off. I'm not afraid of playing against Jadeveon Clowney.
Going out of your way to shit on Clowney. I like it.
Typically I'd be with you if both of their starting tackles in Chicago weren't 39 each, not collectively.
Yeah.
So, yeah, speed rushers will probably eat those guys alive. Fortunately, Monty's good in the pass block, and they have competent running backs who are pretty good, and Fields is elusive, which will definitely help him. So he's probably not going to get killed. But his big challenge is going to be making sure that he's not stuck staring down the field and just getting whomped.
Yeah.
The last topic of the news today is just breaking stuff from ESPN puts out that AB hit the COVID list. But if Tom Brady doesn't believe it, does it even matter?
Just drink a lot of water and spend lots of time in the sun. It'll be fine.
I actually did not catch whether AB was vaccinated or not. So those rules make significant differences. He is?
Right.
Cool.
The
Yes,
team,
that's why he has a
100%.
chance.
Go ahead.
No. Both ways. Where you said, I think there was the report that they're all vaccinated, and then also based on the reporting, there is a chance that he could come back. Whereas if he wasn't, I think it would be a 10-day minimum for him.
So because he is vaccinated, if he tests negative twice, he can play on Sunday between now and Sunday. So
24 hours before, I think the game is the deal. Yeah.
Yep. So there's a chance. Let's say he doesn't play though. That's obviously a boost for Godwin. That's a boost for Evans. That's a boost for Gronk, which has been awesome so far. And if you're in a deeper league, maybe you start a Tyler Johnson. I don't know. Maybe we see some Jalen Darden run for the first time ever. I'd probably not. but it's definitely a boost for the other two guys in the room.
Gio Bernard probably gets a little more opportunity now too.
JJ's guy.
His guy. So
as a little bit of an aside, I just saw Bruce Arians' quote about Ronald Jones, which really makes me pessimistic. I mean, I was always a little bit of a Ronald Jones truther. Got off the bus at some point last year when other people were high on him. But I think that, I had kept hoping that, he's talented, he's fast, he knows how to run, he might not get the receiving work. But I mean, that quote from Arians where it was like, it's mental, but it's not mental. Like, he's not dumb, but he doesn't get it. Like, it was very back and forth and non-complimentary, and basically implied that like his lack of knowing the system, knowing the schemes, or basically gaining coach confidence was the reason why he wasn't playing, which after this many, I think it was even in the quote, like after 3 years, like, what are you doing? I'm worried. And from a dynasty perspective, I would get out while I can if I could.
Yeah, if there's any value to be had, take it, I would suggest. We also saw Leonard Fournette is not a good running back. I mean, dude just runs up the back of his blockers, and that offensive line is no slouch, but they're making it look harder than it has to be.
Yeah. Maybe I think it's a stay away, even if he gets, 60% of the work.
Hey, look, DB is more than happy to put the ball in the air 70% of the share. So realistically, there's no worry there. You want Brady and you want nothing to do with the running game, because even when it matters, they're just going to lob jump balls to Gronk and Evans, because how do you defend that? Thus far, the league's never found an answer.
You can't.
So while we're at it, guys, and for all the listeners out there, if you would take a moment, do us a favor and check out our website at riderdynasty.com. You can hit us up at Rider Dynasty on Twitter, or download the podcast wherever good podcasts can be found. We're all out there. We've got rankings. Our authors are constantly cranking out new articles. There's so much content to be had. Give us a check out. See what you think. We're happy to interact with you at any time. But that bridges us in now to our main topic for the night. Huge time to overreact to the craziness that is week 2. And there are so many statistical anomalies that it's just kind of crazy. So we asked the question, is this just how things are now? We'll use a little Doctor Strange. This is how things are now. Infinite loop time? Or is it human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, total insanity? Now, are these guys really the new normal, or are they up for regression? We'll have a chat about all of it and see what's really happening. Now, we're going to start the boat here with Cooper Kupp. Fun to say, follows up week 1 with a monster week 2. Your wide receiver 1 in all of fantasy football land right now. Is it a continued cup of awesome for the whole rest of the year, or does the well runneth dry here for Cooper Kupp? Kit, what do you think?
I want to say closer to the former than the latter. Okay, I think it will balance out between Kupp and Woods. I mean, Woods owners are probably disappointed and thinking, worried that the trend will continue. But both are good receivers who run good routes, who will get open. So I see over the course of the season it balancing a little bit. But I also don't think they have many other targets. I mean, in week 1 they fed Higbee quite a bit. In week 2 they didn't. Van Jefferson is a talent that I think is okay, and a lot of people believe in. But I really think it's going to be a 2-target type of offense on an offense that I expect to be explosive. So Cooper Kupp might finish as a wide receiver 1, probably will, at this point. But if I'm kind of looking at the disparate effects on their rankings, I would be going after Robert Woods, because even though Stafford might prefer Kupp, I think that it's going to balance out. Woods gets open as often. They run similar route trees, and that, if anybody's fading him, I'd be all over it.
What do you think, Brandon?
I'm actually going to take the opposite approach, and I'm going to say I think he can do it. So in 2019, he finished as the overall wide receiver 4, only 3 receivers better in all of fantasy football. So we know he's certainly capable of having a top 5 season, and that year Jared Goff was throwing to him. So I think if this season is it looks more like 2019 than 2020. I think the overall wide receiver one is certainly possible.
It sure seems it. And with a monster arm quarterback who's very happy to target him and is probably just absolutely elated to have a route smith like Cooper Kupp working for him, he's got to be the happiest guy in the room. Stafford just it's Christmas with more Christmas and a third Christmas on top of it for him compared to what he had.
By the way, in 2019, when Kupp was wide receiver 4, Woods was wide receiver 17. So preseason, you probably would have had Woods around, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, somewhere around there, early, mid, late teens, depending on how you feel about him. So this would kind of go right along the lines of how 2 years ago went.
Brendan, I guess I would just ask you to weigh in on my idea about who to target. Not that you shouldn't target Kupp, but you think this portends well for Woods that Kupp is dominating with Stafford, right? And that he's probably underperforming what his average week will be.
No, I'm also all in on Woods. I have him in a couple leagues. Go out and buy him. I just think there's for sure the possibility and the chance that Kupp is, the overall best fantasy receiver.
He has a path to it, no doubt.
Yeah, and riders, don't forget, chemistry is a fickle thing. These guys didn't play a second of preseason ball hardly. So to develop game time, game speed chemistry just takes time. The targets are already there for Woods. There's just been some unfortunate circumstances, and he's just kind of had some tougher looks. So we would certainly expect positive regression back to what we normally see out of Woods. So we got the 2 wide receivers. What's the scoop on Higbee? We going to buy on Higbee, or is Higbee kind of going to get thrown on the wayside here as, yeah, he was nice. That was fun, and now we're moved on. Brandon, what do you think on Higbee?
I'm not super aggressive to go get Higbee right now. If you're super, super desperate for a tight end, sure, but he's not going to be a difference maker on a championship winning fantasy roster.
Kit?
I would reduce that super by 1 and just say
okay.
Yeah, if you need a tight end for this year, to win the championship, I would be willing to acquire him. When you say second, it's like if it's late, guess yeah, but if it's early, I'm hesitant. But definitely don't think that he is going to be somebody who puts year-over-year tight end numbers up, for your team. So you have to be eyes open in what you're doing there.
Yeah, and remember, guys, there's the 3 to 5 guys at the top of the tight end mountain, and then there's this ball of stuff that on a week-to-week basis, they're just going to plinko out individually. We saw that with Gesicki, got nothing, and then got like 12 or 14 points last week. He'll be up and down continuously. That's going to depend on Tua. Logan Thomas is the same deal. He's going to be in and out, boom or bust. It's that tight end gob. So if you can get him for a third, do it, because it's like dart throws at this point.
Do we agree Hawk is in that mountain now?
Week 2 certainly provided a whole new data set as to what he can do. Week 1 was no anomaly as it was in his rookie year. So for me, I think Hawk is getting really close. I want to see one more because they have no other place to go with the ball. The league's going to figure it out. There's only so much creativity that's going to get your tight end open that often. It's a hard we'll see for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
All right. Next up on the what is going on in the world of craziness, the Seattle wide receiver pitcher has Lockett right now as the number 2 wide receiver overall, 57 total fantasy points on a pretty healthy 12 of 16 targets for 278 and 3 scores. And DK, how we all wanted DK to be the guy, has a total of 27 fantasy points, only 16 targets to this point, and he's hanging out right about wide receiver 49. So, what up? Is this DK on the outside looking in and it's the Lockett show? Or is it just early season anomalies? Kit, you want to start?
Yeah, I have the same boring answer expressed less boringly, I hope. So I just, they both have 16 targets, right?
Yeah.
And they get open in very different ways. In that DK doesn't need to be open in order to score a touchdown or beat his guy on the route, and Lockett is an amazing route runner who's hyper quick. But we've seen this before. There've been 3 or 4 game stretches. I mean, last year it was the other way, right? Where DK started. I guess Lockett had some good ones peppered in there, but where DK through the first 5 weeks of the season or something like that was maybe 4 was wide receiver 1 overall, right? He was going for 120 and 1.5 scores over the first 6 seasons. I think they're both good receivers. I think they're both targets. If somebody is buying into Lockett being, a top 4 wide receiver, or B, buying into the fact that DK is not good and getting screwed, I'd be all over either of those inefficiencies. But I expect them, honestly, still to finish close to, 1,200 yards and 8 to, or 7 to 11 scores. And so that's kind of where I am.
Brandon?
Yeah, I'd like to have a change of opinion here, but I kind of agree with Kid just because if you're panicking on DK Metcalf, what are you doing? Like, you're not playing fantasy right. You're not playing Dynasty fantasy right.
Definitely not Dynasty, right?
Definitely not. Yeah. Even if you're in a redraft league with a bunch of your home buddies, go out and buy DK Metcalf, 11 targets last game. The thing for me is with DK, and this is pretty much always going to be the case, he can make your week on a single throw, late in the fourth quarter after he's had 2 points for the first 3.5 quarters. So I'm not panicking on DK. He's a weekly start no matter what.
The targets are still there, and that's the important thing. There's no disparity whatsoever. We're just seeing Lockett with a higher completion percentage right now. That's right now. So there's no need to over panic. However, if you can get yourself Lockett, look, he is still a 28-year-old speed wide receiver. Those usually age like fine cheese, but still.
No, but
if you can do it for this year, sure.
Yeah, what this does illustrate is that Lockett was and probably continues to be undervalued, right? I mean, he's just as good as DK, despite not being the physical freak that DK is. So,
yep, stats don't lie, and the target share is equal, which keeps it going. On to another just crazy stat thing. Brandon Ayuk was supposed to bury Debo on the depth chart here, and now we are 2 weeks in, and Ayuk has 2 total targets for the season, whereas Debo is just a man possessed, the top 5 wide receiver right now, covered up in targets, even getting a couple rushing opportunities, and he's doing the most with it. Even though the Garoppolo is kind of an odd quarterback and looks really hesitant throwing between the numbers, as evidenced by Kittle's early statistical battles, do we see things turning around for Ayuk, or is Debo just going to be the man down the line? Brandon, we'll start with you on this.
I mean, they have to turn around for Ayuk, right? He has 1 point on the season. They have to turn around. I don't think he's going to overtake Debo, though. So I think things continue on for quite some time. I think Ayuk will pick it up, more than 1 point on the season. But I think Debo's the unquestioned number 1 receiver going forward. That is until Trey Lance becomes the starter and he favors Ayuk or Sherfield or whoever,
Kit, what's your thoughts?
So, yeah, I think that Debo this year, even Debo truthers who hammered the table for his talent, I don't think they even could have seen this coming through, right? I mean, and even just 2 games gives new evidence that he has things that we don't think he had. At least I didn't think he had. Let me speak for myself, right? And so I'm all in on Debo at this point. I'm still scared about the injuries. He was injured for 6 straight seasons, starting his senior year of high school or something like that. And I think Ayuk will do better, but I don't know. I don't know about Ayuk, I guess. I don't have a good answer. I hope he'll do better because I thought he looked really good, and I'm not a film guy, but watching what I watched of him, he was beating guys. But if he's not going to get playing time, it's going to be a problem. I expect Ayuk to bounce back and Debo to regress a little bit, but I'm all in on Debo at this point.
I'd love to get some better intel as to what the deal is and to why he's just populating the doghouse at this point, because the kid's got a phenomenal catch radius, fast, was actually a very good route runner last year, which is how he was getting open the majority of the time, and could absolutely make the circus catch. So I don't know where that just goes away. I don't know if they're just hiding a soft tissue injury on us, they have it buried, or he just came in and didn't learn the playbook or something, just thought it was all guaranteed for him, which does sometimes happen with young guys who blow up in their rookie year. But
Donna, thank you for articulating what my tongue-tied self could not. That's what I was going for.
Let me ask you guys,
got it, brother.
What if the Ayuk owner is panicking in your league? What are you giving up for him right now for Ayuk?
If I could have Ayuk, if I'm knowing I have a late second, I would give the late second for Ayuk. There's that much talent there.
I'm right there, and I would throw in an ancillary piece like a third or Grim Osgood or something like that. I guess the question back is there's no way, which is insane to think about, there's no way you would give up Debo to get Ayuk, right?
No chance. Not now.
But 14 days ago or whatever it is,
coming into the season,
like, you got to give me a third or a second too.
It was Debo and to get Ayuk.
Right. So it's just crazy how much things change.
I do think, though, part of that, the flip, obviously, Ayuk's rookie year was huge, but we weren't sure about Debo's injury, and the foot is always, something to worry about. Now that looks like it's out the window. So now that we don't have to worry about the foot injury, it looks like he still has, the talent that he showed in his rookie year.
But we can't say we don't have to worry about the foot injury. We have to worry about every injury with Debo. We continue to have to worry. So there's almost an argument I wouldn't do it, but if you can get someone to give you Ayuk in a second for Debo, like I don't expect Debo to play 16, 17 games regularly over his career. That's where I'm at. I don't know if, and so because of that, there might be more opportunities for Ayuk or something like that. So,
well, plug for the family. Our boys over at the Next Man Up podcast will tell you that there's no such thing as injury prone.
It's not.
There's just bad luck, and maybe Debo's just on the other side of the bad luck. To look that good coming off of the List Frank foot injury, he certainly has all the confidence back that he had, which is one of the hardest things to get back. He's obviously trusting the foot, and his dynamic play is showing that.
My God, he's a super talented monster. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, speaking of super freak talented monsters, let's talk Tennessee a little bit here in the dynamic duo of Jones, that being Julio, and A.J. Brown, are currently rolling into the week at wide receiver 40 and 49 respectively. A.J. Brown has a wretched 7 of 17 catch-to-target ratio. Just yuck. Boys, where did the hands go?
It's bad. It's not good, and obviously they're not going to finish this bad on by season's end after week 18. But the offensive line is a real issue, and I don't see how that gets much better because everybody needs offensive linemen and everybody needs backup offensive linemen. So nobody's super eager to trade all their good offensive line pieces to the Titans. I'm really worried about the offensive line. Obviously, Derrick Henry is going to eat. We saw it on Sunday. That's no problem, even running behind the same offensive line that Tannehill's throwing behind. But I think it's going to be an issue, and it's going to be difficult for Julio to get some real traction with a new quarterback. He's played with Matt Ryan for, basically his whole career. Yeah, ever. It's going to be real difficult for him to get some traction as pretty much the number 2 guy with Tannehill playing behind that offensive line.
Kit, thoughts?
I expect them to both not be wide receiver 40 and 49, I think that it really is a 2-target offense. Reynolds will be in there, and somebody else I can't remember the name of will be in
Anthony
there.
Ferkser, maybe?
Ferkser, who missed last week, but they ended up getting it to weird other tight ends. And so I expect them to have lots of targets against more favorable game matchups than they have. So, if they're being faded, Julio specifically for Dynasty, because I think a contender could maybe snag Julio now for a second, which I'd be all about personally. I think Brown will be better. Brown is a physical monster, but I've always been a little back on Brown. I mean, being 23 or 24 and having 2 different knee surgeries, this offseason, and he's fine. He's just resting because of the 2 knee surgeries he had. That feels weird for a 23-year-old. Everyone wants Brown to be good, but I'm concerned from a dynasty perspective that Brown is not a target for me because guys with degenerative knee issues are not guys who, Hakeem Nicks was great as a Giants fan. Guys that don't continue to be very good.
Kit, I have both sold and acquired A.J. Brown in different leagues this year based on that same premise that 2 knee surgeries are troublesome or at least concerning for a 23-year-old. However, talking to our next man up guys who are legit medical folk, telling us that both knee surgeries were just cleanups and not structural rebuilds makes a world of difference in that. Now, coming back from some of that, learning to retrust everything and probably being off his usual training regime can absolutely account for drops. But more than that, it's the pressure points that make that ball just a little less accurate that can put you in a worse spot as a receiver. And I'm going to chalk some of this up to the offensive line. And particularly league-wide in the early going, I'm going to chalk this up to the way that preseasons have been run. Offensive lines, being an offensive lineman myself, you build chemistry through being there with the boys and just beating the people in front of you. And when you don't get to play in the preseason, you don't get the live communication reps because they are 100% different. You don't see the twists, the stunts, and everything else, and your in-game communication suffers. So what we are seeing now is kind of like college football's first week where you go play your Alcorn or
Mercer.
Exactly. You're some college somewhere who's getting a huge payday to be there and take it.
Yep.
Because that's how you get your reps, and that's how you build your rhythm and communication.
I'll give one last thing on this offensive line. If we need any more evidence that they're struggling, Tannehill's had to dump it off to Derrick Henry, which is never a great thing because Henry's not a great pass catcher. Henry's career high in receptions for a season was last year, and he had 19. Well, he has 9 already this year.
And he had 3. I saw he had 3 total games with 4 more catches before this season, and now he has 2.
Yep.
Yeah, it boggles the mind. I mean, the guy is that talented, and to never have to develop that skill set is borderline unbelievable. But then again,
we can get off the rails here, but I think that's a huge Derrick Henry could have been so much more. I don't think he has bad hands. I don't think he's a bad route runner. I don't think he could have been Derrick Henry plus in my mind, but
which is unbelievable.
Yeah,
because you think about just tantalizing to imagine.
I think he could have also had 50 catches a year.
Maybe. Well, talking about probably the best running back to the rest. The Detroit Lions right now have 2 RBs in the top 10 of scoring. What? Is this the new normal, or is this ripe for regression?
So everything I said about the Titans line, just flip it for the Lions, and that's your reason for why Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift have been doing pretty well this season. Penei Sewell, fantastic pick for them. He's been amazing. I don't think he's let up a sack, maybe not even a pressure to the quarterback, but certainly not a sack yet. Dan Campbell wants to build this team from the inside out, the way you should build it. The lines first and then work your way out to the skill positions. And he's doing just that. The line is great. They're just moving people, creating all kinds of lanes. Jamal Williams is smart. DeAndre Swift is smart and super athletic. He can catch the ball. And through 2 games, they've had 2 pretty big deficits to 2 really good teams, the Packers and the Niners. And Campbell has shown that he's not afraid to continue to run the ball, even down, 2 touchdowns plus. So I really like, our week 1 podcast, I said that they were going to flame out, these 2, after an incredible week 1. Well, they've done it again, and I've been proven wrong, at least for 1 week. So I'm all in, as of right now. And of course, it's going to bite me in the butt next week when they come right back down to earth. But I think it's just, the offensive line is the reason for their success so far.
Kit?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's smash on Swift. If anybody has hesitation based on the last game that just happened, it's not. I mean, I never like to do this because, I'm not a scout, but he just looks amazing. I mean, when he touches the ball, he just explodes in a way that, that's what I thought about Deontay. He's the last person I can most reasonably attribute that to. Aaron Jones before that. So I don't know. It's not analytical. It's not reasoned. But to Brendan's point, they're going to run the ball, right? And they're going to continue to stay committed to running the ball. Even when they're not, he's going to get junk time catches, down the stretch. This was the worst game script and scenario to him to the Packers. Lions playing the Packers, and he finished with 10.5, fantasy PPR points. So I expect better things ahead. Jamal Williams, do with it what you will. He could be a bye week replacement, and I expect him to stick around, but kind of the way he stuck around with Aaron Jones, and so yeah, I'm all in on Swift, and that's been affirmed by the first couple games for me.
The crazy thing about this is no part of it is unsustainable. And the reason for that is the targets. Swift is number 2 on the team in targets behind TJ Hawkinson. And Jamal Williams is currently, it's either 4 or 5. And none of that is going anywhere because they have no wide receivers. And they are doing a great job of being creative with getting the ball out to check downs and getting things around. That offensive line has been built correctly, and the team is committed to that. You saw that with the new contracts for the GM and the coach. You don't get 5-year contracts right out the gate, and they both did. So it's impressive. The commitment is there.
I really agree. I mean, there was one point in the broadcast last night, watched the regular broadcast, where they kind of shit on, the backs and the Hawkinson getting too many targets, and it was no, they were that means that he's checking down too much. They're not being aggressive. And it's no. They identified who their best players are, and they decided to get the ball in their hands. I mean, it's a shame they don't have any receivers worth getting the ball in their hands.
Yes.
But I think that's, given what the personnel they have, I like it. And to your point, it should continue.
Our very own Debbie Dirtbag was running around stoked when Penei Sewell fell to them. He had been talking about Penei Sewell for the better part of 2 years, about just what a monster he was. And it has come to pass.
I saw he's the youngest player in the NFL.
Imagine that, right? So finally, Detroit has something to hang their hat on. And if nasty football is going to be how it is, great. And as far as Jamal Williams maintaining his value, Swift is on what amounts to a snap count for the running game. So it's analogous to a pitch count. He's only going to get so many touches in the run game because they want him being that dynamic pass catcher, but still able to run the ball because you got to be able to do both. So they are committed to both guys. You have to think that Jamal Williams had other options besides Detroit, and it would have taken something special in terms of role to sell him on coming to Detroit. So there it has to be. And how crazy is it that we're sitting here and Jared Goff is currently in the top 12 of quarterbacks?
Props to him, man.
You could have had him for a third in the offseason. People
not crazy to me. Look back at our NFC North preview. Right, North? Yeah.
Yeah.
I said
Not backing it up so well there,
I think
but
I said
yeah.
he's going to be top 16 or 15, but I've been all about that. I mean, he's going to be in the perfect game scripts for it for the rest of the year. It's not going to change. Their defense is bad and got worse with the Akuda Achilles injury, and then their next best guy, we don't know what his deal is. But anyway, I'm all about Jared Goff and I think he was – I do think he has a ceiling, and so I don't think all the negative stuff about him is unwarranted, right? But I think, as a quarterback in this offense, playing the game scripts he is going to play, he's not going to be quarterback 5 or 6 or whatever he is. But, I said 15 before the season. Now I'm saying 12, and he's right there. He's going to be a tough guy.
Hey, the whole deal is not throwing picks. If he can avoid that.
And those back-to-back fumbles, Jesus.
Well, those two.
And to everybody listening, if you feel the same way about Goff that Kit does, go out and get him, because I don't think he's going to go anywhere after this year, because the quarterbacks in next year's class are much better in my mind than the ones in this year's class. And the Lions aren't going to move on from Goff just yet. I think they're going to try to continue on what I said, building from the inside out, build the foundation and the structure. So by the time that they're ready to draft a young quarterback in 2023, the foundation and the team around that guy is there.
Brendan, if you're right, Goff is like a very valuable dynasty asset. And I hope you're right, because I think he could be. And I think the Lions should do that. I just kind of always assume, at 2, they'll just pick a quarterback. But yeah, I mean, if that's correct, right, he should be surrounded by a good team next year with all their draft picks, and they got 2 firsts and some extra stuff. And so I always kind of had it in my mind as a default that this is the 1-year wonder thing for Goff. But if it's not, then, I mean, he all of a sudden becomes, somebody who's going to put up good stats, maybe be Kirk Cousins, gets signed elsewhere for 3 years and has a 5-year plus career left.
Hey, there aren't that many teams out there anymore that are saying suck for Spencer Rattler or horrible for Sam Howell.
Yeah.
Those guys are kind of regressing to the pack, and some of the warts are starting to show now that some of their premier talent has moved on to the NFL. So those are going to be evaluations. Those guys will still have value, but it's not the monster class that some people were saying. Next year, or 2 years down the line with DJU, CJ Stroud, the young man at Alabama, it's a much more favorable quarterback year.
Don, you don't think a lot of teams are saying, let's be crappy for Matt Corral?
I do.
He could very well be the next darling of the draft process. We'll see how he plays out through the year. Strong arm, decent mobility, pretty accurate and pretty safe with the football. There's a lot to like there. And in an unsettled year, he might be the darling of the draft process.
To your point, I think he's going to be 101, but I think it's going to largely be because the other guys disappoint.
I've got one more.
Yeah.
Let's will our way to Willis.
Ooh,
the
young man from Liberty.
I
have no faith in him.
Be wrong to get strong.
Me neither, but it was too easy.
Yeah, I know. Will our way to Willis does have a wonderful ring to it.
You guys didn't hear my bad one. Be wrong to get strong.
Ah, there you go.
That's a dad joke if you heard one. Yeah, there you go.
That might be a strong pick, you might say. All right. Awful. Let's close it down, guys. Off to Survivor land here. Those of you who are in the Survivor pools, there's some good options. For me, my pick is take the Ravens this week. Ravens at Lions. They're getting 8.5. I like the Ravens. Kit, what do you think, Survivor land?
I'm taking the Panthers. I don't know what the spread is right now. It might be unplotted because Davis Mills is in there, but I just expect them. Their offense doesn't look bad. Their defense looks great. I expect them to crush.
Last I had seen, it was unplotted because they just hadn't cast it yet because they weren't sure.
Yeah,
but yeah, Matt Rule getting fed a rookie quarterback.
It's going to be nice.
It's going to be difficult. Brandon, what do you have out there?
It's Denver. For me, it's the biggest spread of the weekend. Zach Wilson threw 4 picks. last weekend, and he doesn't get an easier matchup on this Sunday against the Broncos, who have legit dudes all over, and Vic Fangio knows how to run a defense and confuse a young quarterback.
Yeah, even without their excellent linebacker Chubb, Denver at home definitely has more than enough to ground the Jets. Sorry, JJ. College game of the week. It's not a great week on the college slate, but there's some compelling games. Notre Dame, number 12, is at Wisconsin, 18. Should be interesting. We'll see what Karen Williams looks like again after the long TD he caught last week. He's starting to rise and starting to separate among some of those Devy available running backs. So we'll see what that young man has. Anybody else see anything special out there?
Yeah, I got Ole Miss versus Alabama. Ole Miss gonna step up and meet the test that's in front of them.
Bama's defense is a little interesting this year. It's been a bit of an adventure.
Let's say this: when we meet next week, one of us is going to be able to talk shit, right? If Matt Corral puts on against Alabama's defense, I want to hear it from you guys. And if and probably when he gets shut down by Alabama's defense, I'll admit I was a little too high. So it should be a fun game.
Week 4, it's starting to get to be about Alabama time, where the next guys up have it all figured out, and then
the clamps come on. Their stride, but so are we. It's all right.
Brandon, you got anything out there?
No, I'm just excited for another good week of football.
Yeah, I'll give you one more. Texas A&M at Arkansas. Treylon Burks is a man amongst boys at wide receiver for Arkansas. So we'll see what the Razorbacks can do. It's nice to see the Razorback program kind of get themselves right again after all those years lost in the woods. All right, fellas, time for tags. Brandon, lead us off.
I am on Twitter at BCTaff. And then, of course, check out rideordynasty.com and read everybody's amazing articles. You'll learn a lot.
Kit.
On Twitter at KitV_DynastyFF. Arguing with people on Reddit at KitKit123. Not confrontationally, of course. And then, as Brendan said, please check out rideordynasty.com. We have some great writers there and another set of podcasts you guys will all appreciate, I bet.
Hey, we hope you all enjoy this. We do this every week for the riders to try and just spread the good word of the fantasy community. We got the best thing going. Stick with it. Guys, draft teams that you really like. Make trades that benefit you. And we're getting close now after 2 weeks. It's time to start looking at your team and starting your long-term planning. Good dynasty teams have good long-term planning. Find out if you think you're going to be in the winning circle here and start building that way, or if you think you have a poser and you're starting to get too many wins or your wins are a bit light. Either augment or get out. But being trapped in that middle is a fast way to get yourself to a bad spot dynasty-wise. All right. Have a great one, guys. Enjoy another wonderful week of football. We'll catch you later.